As
That's
a
funny.
season ticket holder, I got the option of 4 seats or 4 pictures. So the 4 boys got the nod. The girls will get it next time. So,
Have they decided they're going to do any games yet?
they played last night.
That I saw, but just how many are they going to do? Like 60?
I think so.
Hmm.
Okay, it looks like we're live streaming now.
Okay. All right. So we're live streaming now. So we want to get on the subject. And is everybody here?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay. So we will call the meeting to order. Can I have a approval of the agenda
So moved.
in a second?
I'll second. Well,
Okay. All right.
We have
Moved in
delay.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. We'll go then to 3 public comment. So Myra, do we have a bunch of public comments?
We have some public comment related to our item. And
Okay.
We're gonna do the same process and take some turns doing our
So you
reading.
share,
of public
so-
comment. Yes.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and start and then we'll take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Jenny McCullough. I'd like to be heard on the subject of reopening schools. I'm a single mother of 2, one at Technology Middle and one at Monte Vista. While I have the benefit of working from home, it's a demanding job and I simply cannot split the time having to be a teacher to my kids also. I made it work for the emergency time, March through June, but quite honestly, my job suffered as well as my kids. They suffered the most because of what little time I was able to allot to them. It was difficult, filled with nothing but lots of tears, yelling, sadness from both sides. They did not gain anything out of it. I was also the beginning stages, my younger son being assessed to see if he needs an IEP when we transferred to Cotati Roanoke Park in February. So he for sure will suffer even more should he have to rely on me to primarily teach him. IEP or not, he is behind and needs to be in the classroom with a teacher, not his mom. This just will not work for me. I fear that I will have to quit my job because I am required to be their teacher. I have no choice but to be able to dedicated and appropriate time and attention to their needs during the day and try to find a job that I can work and watch them. I'm really freaking out here. What are single parents supposed to do? I cannot afford the cost of daycare full time. It is a commute comes along with that. Why can't we resort back to an early bird, late bird setup? This will allow for less kids in the classroom at a time and to better physical distancing to be made. I even volunteer to come to the school once a day to sanitize and assist in whatever way that I can. In that regard, I am sure other students would do that too. This has to be a happy medium somewhere. Julie.
Okay. The next one is from Tanya Watson. I wanted to suggest we start school in September and end in June. It was like that many years ago. I feel maybe we would have a better chance with COVID cases lower.
From Annabelle. As parents who have to work, how are you going to track students who are unable to log into school at a time scheduled? I have called numerous daycares and tried to find one that will accept my 2 children with the stipulation of needing logging on to school. I was told we will not be able to ensure all children will be able to attend. Our prices will have to go up to offset the additional internet speed and our liability insurance. As we would not provide the technology, you have to provide it. Great, so I have a desktop and a tablet. So one kid is left out. That seems to divide students more than they already are. Also, as a parent, what we are doing to continue to provide the same services you did while on the physical campus. Both of the children saw a counselor. They have issues they do not feel like discussing with me, and that is fine. I respect that. However, what about the children who are not lucky to be able to escape and tell adult when something is amiss at home? Are you going to acknowledge the correction between the severe decline in child abuse calls and the school not being in session, they don't magically disappear. Are teachers going to go through some sort of further training to spot signs of abuse and depression? Students may be experiencing, since they have now reduced and seeing students to small 2-inch box for a couple of hours a day. Are the teachers and the district board members prepared to accept the suicide if a student takes their life? It could have been prevented if someone had reported it, if someone made them feel not so isolated. Julie?
There's more to that one, Myra. Do you want me to continue with that one? It says, I have been honest with my children. Do you want me to continue? I have been honest with my children about the reality of not going back to school. They are 6 and 9. While my 9-year-old hates, and I mean absolutely offended, being lumped into the same group as an incoming kindergartner as to being able to follow the rules if it meant that they got to be off campus. Both of my children cried and were, for lack of better words, besides themselves with the truth of not being able to see their friends outside of a computer screen, to have a break from one another, to be in a different space in our home as they have been the last 4 months, and now you're demanding another 5. Teachers are starting to overreach their job titles. What if the amount of working parents is too great to offset this style of distance learning? What if you don't get kids to show up? The next one is from Melissa. I hope the school district provides full instruction online for middle and high school. There is absolutely no excuse for students to not have 6 hours of instruction a day. Middle and high school students should work a schedule as if they were attending in person. Hour-long instruction with a break to use the restroom, get a drink, sign into the next class. Elementary, something similar like work on math, then a home recess, then another subject, etc. Provide the art supplies to parents for elementary. This could be so successful, and please grade them like they were in school. Some kids worked really hard to try and maintain their grades.
Okay. Next comment is from Danielle. Given the governor's address last week on opening of schools, I am asking the board to give pressure on the schools to expedite the communication from teachers to parents to begin almost immediately. Parents need to know teacher, supplies needed at home, login credentials, as well as a set schedule for class time during the week of August 3rd through 7th, so that parents can get their end situated, making sure that we have everything set for the first day to go as smoothly as possible for our children. Proper, timely, and effective communication is expected from teachers learning from the spring and the short falls experience. There would be a class time set, as well as following week's expectations. Schedules and materials to be covered should be given out Friday the preceding week. Us, parents, also need to know what supplies the students need to have readily available to them, as well as pick up any tangible materials that the school is giving us prior to the first day. Teachers need to be on the forefront of communicating with parents more than a blanket email. We need a discussion when students are not grasping something. We need to be the right-hand person, especially in elementary school, so that we can assist in setting a solid foundation. You are not asking us to continue to be parents. You are trusting a student-teacher role onto us without a prior experience. This is a struggle for parents who are working. Teachers need to comprehend this instead of making parents feel like they are not making the right choices for their families. Parents have to work. Not all of us are afforded the luxury to be able to work from home. The decision must also not be made against students, where the board will end up with a ton of complaints from parents who are doing their best with their families, which is feeding and providing a shelter. We do not consider school to be babysitters. We consider the school to be an institution where children go during weekends to learn in a controlled environment, make new friends, learn more than just what is taught in school, reap the benefits of campus from various outlets, counselors, band, PE, science clubs, girls on the run, and so on. This seems to be the biggest disagreement between teachers and working parents. School is not just a singular activity, but enriches children in more ways than just what comes out of the teacher's mouth. I also feel that any combination classes at elementary school level should not try to teach both grades at once. It is difficult for a student to learn in class this way. I only imagine how dissatisfied one may feel losing a trimester last year and being put into a combo class. I pray and beg that the board may take this as temporary as possible, and that we schools are back on our campuses before Halloween. I also ask that there be more understanding coming from teachers instead of harsh remarks about their fears their fears. Parents equally have fears and should be acknowledged too. Sincerely. Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Myra, I'll do the next two.
Awesome.
One comment is from Tracy Crocker. Will staff be allowed to offer distance learning from the classroom during a school day? This would be beneficial, essential, even in special day classes and for primary grades. The next comment is from Tiffany Muguruza. Good evening, Superintendent Perez and board members. My name is Tiffany Muguruza. I am a kindergarten teacher at John Reed School. First, I would like to thank each of you for your time and continued support of teachers and district staff to ensure our safety and well-being as we work through these difficult times. This past month, I have been participating member of the district's COVID task force. I would like to thank the district for including teachers in the decision-making process. I know not all districts have done this. As someone who will be with the children all day, it is important to be a part of the conversation when decisions are being made in regards to planning and procedures that will affect me and my students. I love my job and teaching kindergarten is my passion. However, I do not love the thought of being in a classroom where children will not be required to wear masks during this pandemic. I'll be honest, when I heard our governor's press conference, my first thought was a hazmat suit. As a kindergarten teacher, I can't begin to count the number of times I have been coughed on, sneezed on, or the target of occasional projectile vomit. Most kindergarten teachers will tell you kindergarten kids are gross on a daily basis. They use their sleeves as a Kleenex, they chew on their shoelaces, and yet I wouldn't want to teach any other grade. Therefore, I ask as you are making decisions about the new school procedures when we return, please keep the TK through second grade teachers in mind. We too would like to be safe. Please require all students to wear masks until this pandemic is over. Thank you. Myra, I apologize. I skipped a page. I didn't know it was backsided, so that's why I apologize.
Okay. That's fine. Cynthia Diaz, right? We're on the next comment. Okay,
Yes.
Cynthia Diaz. Workplace protocols for staff with health conditions. Hi, my name is Cynthia Diaz, and I'm a parent of two students, one at Lawrence Jones and the other at La Fiesta Elementary. I am working full-time at a job, and a coworker has brought up some very good points. What happens if an employee thinks they are sick or they are trying to get a test scheduled up? Are they still permitted to come to work without informing our faculty members or their peers? My concerns come from the risk of potentially infected employees interacting with those who are not sick. The incubation time can be from 10 to 14 days, meaning that we could have people who are sick and appearing normal for almost 2 weeks. How many individuals could that possibly infect? It scares me to think about. I hope that we have a policy in place to protect others. Thank you.
Next comment is from Chrissy Wilson to the Cotati-Roanoke Park School District and Board of Trustees. I am not here to advocate a position on whether we should open the schools. That should be determined by health officials as they have the scientific understanding of when it is safe to reopen. Instead, I am writing to offer my feedback from a parent's perspective regarding distance learning and the way in which our district has handled this situation. First, let me acknowledge the fact that I'm fully aware teachers had little time to prepare for distance learning this spring, and most did an amazing job with the few resources they were provided. However, the distance learning my daughter received as a sixth grader was little more than busy work. On average, it took her an hour a day to complete the work assigned, which often included extra credit assignments. Additionally, there was no consistency in the platforms used. Some teachers did everything, including grading, through Google Classroom, while others used PowerSchools. Some teachers used Zoom, while others Google Hangout for live instruction. The lack of consistency coupled with not using best practices, such as muting all students and using a raise hand feature, caused non-productive, confusing video sessions, creating more anxiety for students. I do not blame the teachers for these failures. Leadership comes from the top down. Our district should have provided clear guidance for our teachers, authorized use of consistent platforms, and provided training best practices on how to use those platforms. Our district also seems shockingly delayed in their response. We are nearing August and our district is only now acting on a final plan. I understand that there are many unknowns, but by the beginning of July, Santa Rosa City Schools had an 81-page return to school plan in place, which fully detailed expectations for students, parents, administration, and teachers. Sorry to end.
Is that there's more to that?
Oh,
Okay.
thank
Finally,
you.
you want me to?
Please.
Okay. Finally, our district leadership seems content with allowing two, in my opinion, rogue trustees to deliberate the topic in emotionally charged, often politicized posts on the community Facebook page. As a nonprofit professional that serves as an executive director on multiple boards, the way in which these trustees have been allowed to operate and polarize many of our community is appalling. We can do better. We must do better. I urge the district to develop a plan to provide meaningful distance learning for our students. I urge the district to provide leadership that is needed To make a program such as this successful, I urge the district to provide the necessary resources to our teachers and allow them to do their job well. And finally, when health officials say it's safe, I urge the district to be prepared to safely and immediately open our schools, as this is true. This is the best place for our students to be.
I think I'll fill the next one. The next one is from Tracy. Or do you want me? Is that okay? Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, Tracy. After watching the last special board meeting on July 7th, it became clear the district was leaning towards distance learning for the start of the school. While I understand this to be necessary now, as a parent of 4 students, I worry about how that works. We will have students at the high school, both middle schools, and an elementary school. In the spring, when things were admittedly thrown together, the rigor was lacking for my students. The high school had it so classes or office hours overlapped, leaving my high schooler to have to choose which class to give priority to. Further, with their grading policy, my high achieving student wasn't motivated and ended up with lots of missing work and no consequence for it since the 3rd quarter grades were high. My middle schooler had more of a set schedule, but again, only had office hours at the same time for each of her 5 classes and didn't have required check-ins with teachers, completely optional. While I know my students have a benefit of their own technology and usually a parent at home keeping track of it all, my 7th grader was not given enough to keep her busy for the 3 hours of work that was the goal for the day. At the time, we had 2 in elementary school where there were check-ins and math lessons daily, which in a time of Eureka Math makes life much easier on the mama. One of the teachers made the work completely optional. I look at surrounding districts that have published thought out plans with expectations for parents, students, teachers, and staff, and I implore our district to do the same. Students need to connect with all their teachers and need access to direct instruction, not just worksheets, not just optional office hour check-ins. I worry that without defined goals and expectations, my students will quickly burn out and not end up learning anything. Further, the district needs a plan to have some consistency across classes, grades, and schools in terms of instructional minutes, small group instruction, means of assessing, and accountability. Students need outline expectations and to be held accountable. Teachers need outline expectations so they don't feel the need to answer emails and be on 24/7. Staff needs a plan because the district can't and shouldn't be paying paraprofessionals to stay home and not be useful. There is no reason our district can't have a thorough, thought out plan like districts around us so students and their families can have some sort of plan in a time of such uncertainty.
This comment is from Laura. Please provide free childcare for working families or available resources if distant learning. Thank you.
The next comment is from Jim Gregoretti. Dear Dr. Perez, Dr. Wattenpaw, Dr. Sinyard, Board President Brown, and Board Members Chimino, Gillis, Nahn, and Wilkenwood. My name is Jim Gregoretti, and I was recently appointed as RITSIA's new bargaining chair for the 2020-2021 school year. I would first like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Perez as our new superintendent at Cotati-Roanoke Park Unified School District. We realize that these are unprecedented times in public education. Therefore, we look to you for strong leadership in directing the district through our current crisis that we are in. And that can only happen if you listen to and respond to the educators who are closest to the students. Our RITSIA bargaining team this year consists of Betsy Moses from the Ranch, Ginny Mason from Tech High, Tracy Ewens, and Kim Stainer, both of whom are from—
Excuse me, Julie, you're breaking up really a lot. Is it just me or?
I'm sorry, can folks hear me?
Yeah, there's just this weird background sound.
Okay. Are you getting feedback from, is it everybody hearing feedback?
Feedback.
Pardon, there's no, okay, I'm gonna continue reading.
Okay.
Sorry, I apologize for that. We all look forward to meeting with the district regarding current issues that affect all the safety of both staff and students. We also look forward to negotiating a well-deserved wage increase that mirrors those recently negotiated in neighboring districts. Having a strong, active, and engaged teachers union truly benefits the community and improves educational outcomes for students. We now look to the future knowing that positive things can and will happen for all our members in our district if the district's leaders listen to the frontline educators. Together we can and will make a difference. Best, Jim Gregoretti, RITSIA Bargaining Chair.
Board of Trustees, Superintendent Perez, Assistant Superintendent Sinyard. I want to thank you for your diligent work and planning for the 2021 school year. I greatly appreciate that you have included teachers on the planning committee. For the beginning of the school year, I hope to have a safe start through distance learning. I know that myself and my colleagues worked tirelessly in the spring to make distance learning successful and that we can build upon that foundation for the fall. I request that when it is time to consider shifting to in-person instruction, that you do not rush it I am concerned by the governor's mandate that children 8 and under have the option to wear a mask or not at school. This will be my fourth year teaching kindergarten, and I know the risk of not wearing mask poses. I would not feel comfortable returning to the classroom for in-person instruction without masks. I love my kiddos. I want us all to be safe. Again, thank you for all that you do for our district. Is that the final one? Yeah.
No,
okay.
no, I have one
Oh,
more. I have one
okay.
from, last one from Emily King, our RIPSIA president.
Okay, perfect.
Good. And again, I hope you can all hear me. Good evening, President Trustee Brown, members of the board, and Superintendent Perez. When RIPSIA polled our members at the end of June, 67% said they would be happy to go back to teaching students in the classroom if it was safe to do so. Unfortunately, with the rising cases of COVID-19, the placement of Sonoma County on the state watch list, and Governor Newsom's recent school regulations, it is clear that it's not currently safe to return to in-person learning, even in the hybrid model. Since taking over as the president of our association this month, I have heard from many of our educators who desperately want to be back in the classroom with students. However, considering all the unknowns, they are worried for students, for their families, and for their own well-being. While opening the school year in a crisis distance learning model is far from ideal, it is the best option at this time. As such, RIPSIA supports the proposal for a distance learning model across all school sites. We appreciate that the school board and the district have heard our concerns. It is heartening to know that we are all on the same page as we work together to prioritize the health and safety of our students and staff in the 2021 school year. There are still details to be decided and negotiations to happen, but we are confident that with the right support, our educators will be successful in guiding students and families, and we will be able to provide quality remote education during this pandemic. One factor that will assist in this is the flexibility for our members. Some teachers would like the ability to work and teach from their classrooms while practicing physical distancing, of course, while others need to be at home due to family situations or compromised immune systems. For our educators to work safely from their classrooms, frequent cleaning and disinfecting by trained school employees and the inspection of all ventilation systems will be key. We understand the district has a cleaning and maintenance plan for the current situation, and we will continue to work together to ensure safety for everyone on our campuses. In addition, adequate training, collaboration, and preparation time are key to a successful program. Our members are essentially designing entirely new ways to teach, and that takes training and time. We ask that the district consider this and plan for more, not less prep and collaboration time in the daily and weekly schedule. We also ask that the staff at Richard Crane are included in any discussions of additional training or preparation days and recognized for their hard work this past week. In the midst of this turmoil surrounding the plans for opening schools, Richard Crane Elementary began their year-round school year and provided a clear path forward for students and families. Educators spent a lot of time meeting with families one-on-one and getting everyone set up for success. Many of our members worked long hours in order to prepare materials, connect with each child, and plan lessons and schedules to start the year off strong. We commend their dedication and thank them for piloting this new program. Finally, we want to recognize that this pandemic has exacerbated the digital divide and the economic inequality that exists in our schools and our communities. We thank the district for moving forward with plans to provide access to technology and devices for all of our students. This will undoubtedly change the dynamic of distance learning and allow us to connect better with our students. In addition to challenges facing our student population, our educators are facing financial stress and uncertainty. We ask that you recognize this increasing cost of living, the hard work and dedication of our educators, and the need for wages that reflect both. You can't support students without supporting educators. In conclusion, we are supportive of Dr. Perez and her plan for the school year. We have worked collaboratively throughout the task force and MOU negotiations, and we will continue to work together during these challenging times. Sincerely, Emily King, RIPSIA President.
Okay, so now we'd like to get started with the presentation. We said this meeting we would provide you with some additional information. We've been hard at work, and quite frankly, it keeps changing. The message has changed frequently, so that's the dynamic we have. So I know that districts have made plans, and yet some of those plans now are a little outdated, which is kind of amazing. Can we pull up the presentation, please?
We're going to 4A now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to the 4A. Okay, so, definitely, that first and foremost on our minds are safety. So that's, what we've been thinking about as we go through this and do this work. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we have a reentry task force. You know, we have a variety of stakeholders at the table, and we're in the process of trying to create many possible scenarios. What we want to provide our families is consistency. So, you know, do these schedules work, and are they flexible enough? Should we have to, you know, return to school once it's safe? Anyway, and we want to prepare recommendations for the board. And one of the things that was at the top of all of our minds, and the first most important criteria, is really the health and safety of our students, teachers, and staff. So the things that we wanted to consider as we were planning, again, I wanted to repeat that, you know, when we closed in March, it was a fast reaction. We had to turn our whole system upside down. Now, you know, it's a little bit better because we're really looking to provide that consistency and that structure in the schedule for students, families, and staff. We also know that we need to provide the additional supports for students. So if students need additional supports, if we have special education students, we have English learners, foster and homeless youth, we want to be able to embed that additional support into our schedules. And also the one thing that we need to note, and we need to let people, you know, want the teachers to put their shoulders down, is we have modified instructional minutes. We don't have the same minutes that we've had when we have a brick and mortar classroom. So we have to really identify the essential standards and teach differently, because we're not going to be able to cover the same amount of material that we did, you know, when we were open. Next slide, please. Anyway, so the other considerations is really develop a schedule that allows breaks throughout the day. We know that sitting in front of the screen for 6 hours straight is not ideal for any of us. We want to make sure that we take into account the social emotional needs of our students. This is, although we are not in the classroom working, some of this work, this virtual work, can be very challenging. So we want to make sure we consider all the needs, and also of our adults. We can't forget our staff. And also create a schedule that provides some sort of flexibility should we phase to return to the work. So this is kind of the criteria or the parameters that I provided the task force, saying, could we do this and take this all into consideration, because we think these are very important criteria. Next slide. Oh, yes. So what are the kind of the considerations that we've been looking at? We have in-person learning. This is, we know, the most ideal. We'd love to bring everyone back. I don't think there's anyone in the room or anyone listening in tonight that doesn't agree that we want kids back. I want kids back. I want to get to know the students. I want to get to know the teachers. But yet we have this pandemic. And then the other consideration is hybrid. So it'd be a combination of distance learning as well as bringing kids in. And then the third option is distance learning only. And then, of course, we heard from Friday. We got a very specific message from our governor. We've been wondering about this, but this has helped us make the decision or make the recommendation. So if a county is on the state COVID monitoring list, they must provide distance only. Counties must be off the monitoring list for 14 days before schools can reopen. And Sonoma County is currently on that monitoring list, so we will start with distance learning. Please keep in mind that as I listen to the dates, they fluctuate. So they're saying, okay, we're going to fall off the list this day. So a few weeks ago, I had an email that said, okay, you know, July 22nd will fall off the monitoring list. Now it's August 3rd, and then we have 14 days to think. So, you know, that's like kind of a moving target. I just want to let you know that it's a moving target that we're watching carefully. Once we open, we know that we need to provide coronavirus testing. Each district will be doing that. And we know, and what the guidance that we provide is that students in grades 3 to 12 are required to wear a mask covering, and students in TK2 are encouraged to wear the mask coverings. For various reasons, the TK2 kiddos don't have a susceptibility to coronavirus. I'm not the scientist, so I don't want to get into details of that. So the 6-foot distancing is expected for staff and students. The guidance now says as far apart as possible. And the other guidance that we've been provided is that 5% of the school students and staff test positive. The school would have to close for 2 weeks. If 25% or more of our schools close, then the entire district must close for 2 weeks.
That also listed, Myra, one child in one cohort would mean that class and that teacher would have to go home for 14 days as well.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes, absolutely. Okay, Senate Bill 98. So last meeting, I gave you some information. Some of this is repeated, but we're getting a little bit closer. We're getting a little bit more clarity. It provide, last time it said by health order. Now it says it provides flexibility based on the local context, which is, we're talking about that monitoring list. And should we decide that it's not safe to do so, we can do that as an LEA. We have 180 instructional days. You have the minutes that have been waived. So we are very specific. Kindergarten 180, grades 1 through 3, 230, grades 4 through 12, 240. What this law requires, this Senate bill requires, is interaction, instruction, and check-ins. And it's saying very, very much so daily. Daily, we must do this. Instruction could be video or audio instruction. There's be some use of print materials and the incorporation of assignments that are subject to written or oral feedback. So we have to give students feedback about the work that they're doing. Next slide. Again, Senate bill. Also, we must assure the connectivity and device accessibility for our students. And here's the daily live instruction between students, teachers, and students. And we heard some of that in our public comment. So that's the guidance that's coming. And the instruction must be aligned to grade level standards. And then additional supports we have to provide for students that aren't quite performing at grade level. So we need to figure out, embed that time and provide that intervention, through our scheduling. Next slide. And this is what's really interesting about this is we have legislation, we have these words, and we keep asking, well, what does that mean? Because quite frankly, the auditors come in, they're going to ask us for documentation, and we need to provide that documentation. So you see here, we have to be able to prove that we're taking daily attendance. We need to provide evidence of rigorous distance learning. We have the completion of assignments and assessments. We need to be able to document that. We have to be able to document contact with parents or guardians. So if a child's struggling, if a parent needs to contact a teacher, we need to provide that. And then there's the elusive weekly engagement record. So this is the information we have in terms of the documents we must provide. And what happens is the auditors define this, and it may be a schedule, but we're still waiting for that information. But this is the current information that we have. Now, next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sinyard, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we heard from families, and she's going to dive into the schedules. We've also invited the principals here to give you some more information should you have some questions about their schedules. This is not easy. It's complex because we're doing it distance, and we're following a lot of guidance and considerations because we want to meet the needs of our students. Julie, take it away.
Thank you. We had such an overwhelming outpouring of responses for our survey. And again, we thank the parents for kind of partnering with us and letting us know what went well and what didn't. And we're going to hear kind of like the big themes here of where we need to improve in our delivery of distance learning. And biggest push for all parents was we want access to our teachers and we want direct instruction. We are not teachers. We do not want to instruct our children. We need teachers to partner and do the instruction. So you will see that as we talk and move into our schedules that we've addressed that concern from parents. Parents were concerned with consistency. They wanted structured scheduling. And when is my child supposed to be on their Google Meets? What kind of platforms are we using? To that extent, we are addressing those concerns as well. Parents want to know how they can partner with us to ensure their students are turning in their work, that they are progressing academically, how they can help support us and let their child know, hey, let's do a double check. I don't know if you've turned in your assignments yet. So really kind of partnering with us to make sure our kids are gaining that academic growth. Folks, there was a lot of apprehension from parents regarding the use of technology and clear guidance. I know I mentioned that at a different board meeting as well, but a parent orientation to explain our expectations for our student learning, kind of for the teachers, and really how to log on to all these platforms that we are going to use, how to become familiar with Google, to have a greater, deeper understanding of how to work with the virtual learning process. And again, a call for increased communication. Again, you've heard it in the public comments as well, kind of what's happening, what's our weekly plan, how are we tackling this together to ensure that our students are doing great work in distance learning. We have the next slide, please. Thank you. Again, there's a lot of concern around the social and emotional well-being of our students, and agreed, one of the contingencies that we need to do for our learning continuity plan is talk about our mental health supports and the levels that we have to help all of our kiddos. And again, another big concern is stable and consistent access to the internet. While we will be able to provide all our students a device, the ensuring that the internet capability is going to be a concern that we're working on and addressing. So that's another big parent concern that we're addressing. Providing additional instruction and support to ensure academic growth. Dr. Perez has mentioned to supporting our unduplicated students, our English learners, our low-income families, our students with special needs, going above and beyond to provide additional support during this distance learning time, and how we will address that. And again, the other big concern that we will be addressing is really trying to address a sense of community. So we know that in many of these students, this is the first time they're going to meet their teacher. And how do you build that rich school community in the classroom? How we get to know one another, how we build that trust and understanding between our students and our teachers, and really spending some time to work on that. Next slide, please. And I have the opportunity right now to kind of introduce some of our principals. I have Rachel Hankerson and Jennifer Hansen from Evergreen and Marguerite Hahn Elementary. We're going to have our principals kind of go through and talk about the process that we've come to kind of create some draft schedules. And I want to reiterate, these are draft schedules. These are not set in stone. They are still subject to change. And kind of just want to talk to you about the process that we've gone through to work with our teachers and get collaboration surrounding the creation of these schedules for our families. And so I appreciate the hard work of the task force. The principals have met with their leadership teams, with site personnel to try and hash out some of these schedules. And so appreciate all the work that's been done here, but still know there's more work to do. And these are the general thoughts. And Rachel and Jen, please go ahead and take it away.
All right. Yeah, do you want me to talk about the schedule, Rachel, and then you do the PD stuff?
Sure.
Okay. So this is what we came up with. We were working together with our task force. We had teachers from every grade level breaking out into small groups and, talking about what they need to be successful, but also being really mindful of the expectation of minutes per day with the SB 98. So for TK and kindergarten, you can see we've got 180 minutes daily. We felt it was important to start each day with a class meeting and reviewing the agenda for the day. And then we have some instructional blocks listed here. This is just a sample schedule again, sites and can modify these as needed. But this was just kind of what we were thinking. We wanted to really be mindful of meeting our expectation of 30 minutes a day of English language development for our English learners. So you can see that is built in. So your child wouldn't necessarily be participating in live time for each instructional block. For example, in this one that we're looking at here, from 9 to 10 is the instructional block, but the first 30 minutes is the lesson from the teacher, and then they might break out, and then just students that receive English language development from being an English learner would stay on and receive that support. Also having office hours built in throughout the day, because as we know, especially in the beginning, there was tech support that parents needed to reach out to the teacher to say, I can't find this assignment, or, this isn't uploaded, or am I doing this correctly? And so having that built in throughout the day. We also tried to kind of keep the lunches consistent for the teachers, just in case they needed to, talk to each other real quickly about something that having time when they're all available if they wanted to check in with each other about something. And then Rachel, I know you wanted to talk about the class meetings and things too.
Yeah, sure. So the class meetings, I think we'd really come up with starting and ending the day with that to hopefully give the kids some support with their social emotional piece. And then also just when reading some of the comments that we got back from the spring, there was confusion sometimes just for where assignments were or how they could find them. So making sure that they're seeing a face every morning, and also at the end of the day. I read an article about the end of the day saying that's important because you can kind of gauge the kids for what worked, what didn't work, just like we would in a classroom. Where are they struggling and where can we move forward? And then we've really been talking a lot about professional development and what that's going to look like. We are planning on spending a lot of time on identifying our priority standards as an elementary team, especially for math and English language arts. And the purpose of doing that is because we really want to hone in on what our kids are going to be learning when they're on distance learning and be able to communicate that with our parents so that they can really partner with us. I had read a lot of comments from the surveys just saying that, parents were happy to help us and they really wanted to be able to support us even more, but they didn't know where we were going. So if we can give parents, a handout or something saying, this is where we're hoping to be, I think that'll be helpful.
The other thing that we were looking at as well, if you look at the Wednesdays, you'll see that's different. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday follow a similar schedule. We felt that Wednesday would be a good day for teachers to have time to prep and prepare. There will be additional time that's needed because what they're doing does require additional prep and things than just being in the classroom as normal. And then we also have our staff meetings. We planned those for that day. And we also built in some additional time for PLCs or professional learning communities for teachers to be able to work in their grade levels and continue the work that Rachel mentioned with the priority standards. So teachers are working that day. It's not a day off. We're doing a lot of things to prepare for the following week. But since we are required to have some sort of face-to-face instruction with every student every day, that's why the class meeting is there on the Wednesdays to get the day rolling, set the stage for the kids. It's not a day off. You're doing work, you're doing it independently. They'll be working on projects, social studies, asynchronous English language development, science, PE, art, music, all of those things on those days from 8:20 to 12. And we also wanted to keep that Wednesday flexible. Were you going to talk about the hybrid, Rachel?
No, I think we still have the 1st through 3rd and the 4th and 5th schedule. I don't know if we want to click through so they can see those ones also.
Yeah, that would be great. So this is 1st through 3rd, but the Wednesdays, keeping that as well as our more of a prep day, because we were thinking if we do go to a hybrid schedule at some point in the future, hopefully we can get these kids back physically to campus, that would be our day that would be a cleaning day. So wanted to keep parents kind of on that mindset of Wednesdays a little bit more independent, but there still will be expectations for learning at home. This is the 1st through 3rd grade schedule that you're seeing, follows kind of similar. The blocks are changed around a little bit, and we did that again specifically so each student would receive English language development at their grade level at different times for different grade levels, because for the supports needed for that, as well as for our Learning Center special education supports with our Walk to Read program and small groups. We wanted to be able to streamline that a little bit and make it really, really clear on when those things are happening, so those staff members are able to build their own schedule to meet the needs of their students with IEPs, as well as our English language learners.
And like we talked about in the task force, those instructional blocks, teachers have shared different ideas that they used in the spring and different things creatively. So there may be a whole class meeting, or maybe the teacher would post a video, and then there might be groups that students would join for smaller group instruction, or a breakout room for groups of kids to be in breakout rooms, and then the teacher can pop in and check and see how they're doing.
Another aspect that we felt was really important, because we completely realize that some families are working during the day and they're not going to be able to access this learning until they get home at night. And so we didn't want students to miss out on the instruction. So we have a separate schedule for the teachers that's much more detailed. But there are certain times, there's 30-minute block of language arts and a 30-minute block of math every day that is the core direct instruction. And we either want teachers to pre-record those and then they can just release those at the time and the kids can watch it, or they can do a live lesson, which is great too, and record themselves. So that way parents can later watch the videos for that core instruction for the day if they're not able to get it at that time. And also, if it's a challenging lesson, you know, they might need to rewatch it later. So having it recorded for the students and their families, we felt would be a lot more equitable way to provide instruction for the students. This is the 4th and 5th grade schedule. As you can see, it's
I'm sorry, Myra, this is
Yes.
Tim. Are you showing a PowerPoint?
Yes.
When whoever is introducing the current slide, they don't have to go over every detail, but could they just give a title, subject, description of the slide so I can follow along?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
You bet. I apologize. This is the 4th and 5th grade slide that we're looking at now, because the minutes are slightly different for the expectation for the grade levels. So 1st through 3rd is 230 minutes daily, and 4th through 12 actually is 240 minutes.
I had a quick question too.
Yeah.
On the instructions, so if they're going to do any recording, is any of it going to be translated into Spanish? And we have a translator, like, you know, where it's needed at different campuses for parents that need it. Will we be able to have that to where it can be translated?
We can definitely talk about that and see what we can do. Very good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially maybe we can even look at, you know, just translating even like directions so parents are able to make sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to kind of move on from our elementary crew and kind of talk a little bit about our secondary schedules. Again, you are going to see different secondary schedules, and this is different at our sites to address the different programs and needs at each site. They do look differently. And so appreciate all the hard work the principals have gone through with their staffs to find some schedules that work really well for what we believe are the students and the teachers and community. And so with that, I'd like to introduce the principal of Lawrence Jones Middle School, Melissa Quinn. Let's see. Okay. It looks like we have some challenges here with Melissa being on the line, so I'll kind of talk a little bit briefly.
Sorry,
no problem.
I started my video, but I didn't unmute myself. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to just walk you through how we arrived to this schedule. So we gathered a bunch of information from various sources, parent meetings, whether it was our PTSA, whether it was the Expeditionary Learning Group, or MS PABA. We also completed a series of surveys to both parents and students. And we talked with our staff at length. And ultimately what everybody came back with was they wanted to make sure that our course pacing was developmentally appropriate for 11 to 13-year-olds. The consistent feedback, which Julie already mentioned, was that they wanted consistent meeting times that were structured. Parents requested that homework be calendared a week in advance so parents knew what to anticipate, and that anything that was a considerably large, challenging project be assigned, or due Sunday evening to allow for parents to assist students with homework in the event that they were working during the week while kids were online. We also wanted to make sure that students had access to the necessary services and supports. So whether it's, English language learners or students with special needs. And ultimately what was loud and clear is for our site, what's going to work best is to have a 6-period day because it enables us to keep, and when I say 6-period day, 6-period schedule, let me reframe that. It allows us to keep our 6th grade academy model and our expeditionary learning academy cohorts intact. And the thought is that this is really going to help to minimize the students' disruption to their year. They're at home, so there's already disruption there. But if you actually look at the breakdown of the school day, it very similarly mirrors the school day that they had previously. They start at the same time, which is 8:10. The big difference is instead of attending 6 classes each day, they attend a total of 3 80-minute periods, which reaches their 220 requirement. And then every single afternoon, of course, with the exception of the Wednesday, there are teacher office hours, really to make sure that we are providing those individualized student supports for the students that need it, or any small group or individual instruction for students that are struggling. So there's a high level of consistency, and it lends for a smooth transition to a hybrid if we need to. So if we end up ultimately going to a hybrid, we could break the students up into 2 different cohorts where half would attend their classes on Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday would be available for a very deep cleaning. And then the second cohort would attend all 6 of their classes on Thursday and Friday. So I think that more or less covers it. Julie, is there anything that you think I left out or would like to have me speak to?
I'm on mute, I apologize. No, thank you, Melissa, I appreciate it. Like to-
Julie, can I ask you a quick question you might not have the answer to? But
Sure.
Okay, so talking about hybrid model being back in the classroom, my understanding and the wording is a little bit, again, vague from Governor Newsom, where he's talking about teachers have to stay 6 feet away from students and students have to stay 6 feet away from the teacher, but the students only have to stay 6 feet apart from each other as much as is practicable. Is that leading to having a full-size classroom of 24 to 28 students?
So
if we're not,
Okay.
I can speak to that, Krista. So when I say dividing the cohorts up, so if we have an average class of say 28 to 30, it gets us down to roughly 14 to 15 kids. I have actually gone in and physically moved the desks in each of the various classrooms at Lawrence Jones, and it absolutely enables us to allow the 6 feet of space for the instructor and the appropriate distance for each kiddo. There's actually plenty of room to spare so that there's space on the outside of the classroom should somebody need to get up and excuse themselves to use the restroom. So this
right,
model
so
is our size of classroom for it.
I guess my question is this something that we have to do, or with the language that they put in, Governor Newsom did on Friday saying students can stay 6 feet apart as practicable, does that necessarily mean we have to do half? It kind of leaves it open to interpretation, I guess, at this point.
Krista, I think that's a great question, and we would probably want to get some legal advice on that one, just in terms of making sure that we were following all appropriate guidance to the best of our ability to ensure any kind of, to make sure we are keeping all our kids safe at all times. That would probably be my direction on that one. Again, it is open for interpretation, and that's a great opportunity for our attorney to support us in that one. But just
yeah, because I'm wondering you're going to have people read that, because I already had somebody say, hey, I read that as when hybrid starts, all kids can go to school it's on the same day. So I was like, I didn't read it that way. But then when I went back and reread it, I could see how some would interpret it that way. So I just was asking for clarification. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, great. All right, let's switch slides here then, and I will introduce Sarah McKenna, the principal of Technology Middle School, and she will run us through her schedule for Technology Middle.
Good evening. Okay, so this is our draft schedule for Tech Middle. This is based on a lot of feedback from parents, students, and teachers. The biggest difference with this schedule is the students will only be taking 3 classes a semester, which will, in a sense, be cutting their workload down in half. 6 through 8 usually only have 6 classes a year. So this way they'll take 3 the first semester and the other 3 the second semester. So this will kind of tighten up their workload and let them kind of go deeper into learning these 3 in these 3 classes. It will also lessen the teacher's workload. So they have 3 80-minute periods a day. And in those 80 minutes, they'll do, a check-in, a warm-up, lesson intro, some type of collaborative learning with partners or with their teacher or a project, and then they'll come back at the end of the 80 minutes for closing. We're having our Wednesdays stay the same as late start Wednesdays so that we can have our teacher collaboration time in the morning still. I found that this schedule actually is much like Rancho Cotati's. With this model, it flows very well between the hybrid, distance, and in-person. And I feel like the most important feedback that I got from parents and students was they were so overwhelmed with all 6 classes last year, just in the couple months that we were doing distance learning. And I felt like less was more. And I also feel like less is more for the teachers to have to manage. So this way, instead of 150 students, they'll have 75. I think that's about it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. I'd like to introduce Principal of Technology High School, Dawn Mawhinney. And Dawn, will you please go ahead and kind of explain your draft schedule?
Hi, this is Dawn Mawhinney. And first, I'd like to say how we came up with the schedule and why we did what we did. The staff, we put together a committee, a standing committee, roughly half the teachers in the school. We've met over the summer. We looked through the data from the survey that the school sent out, the survey that the district sent out, and we identified goals that we wanted to do. And the number one thing that parents and students both asked for was consistency. So we're definitely trying to address that both in platforms and in the daily schedule. And we set up some goals. First and foremost was the safety and health of the students and staff. We were also looking to preserve the THS STEAM program and the whole reason why we're here. We wanted to also maintain rigor and balance that with the realities of what we're all facing and what the students are facing. Maintain the student opportunities with their electives, their AP courses, and again, consistency to students, staff, and parents. And we wanted to make sure we included time for a continual feedback loop to find out like what's working, what isn't working, and time for social and emotional learning and support, other needs from students, and time for them to meet with their teachers if they were struggling in a classroom. But one thing we did do is that Mondays, if there's a day off in the week, it usually falls on a Monday. We shifted our late start Wednesday during this distance learning period to Monday. We felt that if there was time lost, it should be on the teachers and in the independent time, and the instructional time is kind of sacred. So we want to preserve that the best we could. So on Mondays, we will continue to have late start. So we have staff PLC, staff meetings, department meetings, grade level meetings on that Monday morning. Then we have already in place what's called academic support and clubs. And that period, the students would meet with teachers to get continual support. We're turning that into a homeroom model where the students will actually be broken out by alpha and in grade level. It'll be a low level interaction with an instructor. It's not going to be guided, but they will check in with them. They will ask to fill out surveys, see how they're going, if there's any frustrations they have. And it's a way to get that feedback back from the students that they may not feel comfortable in class to get. Then on Mondays, they'll work on online classwork, and teachers will also have office hours from 10:15 to 12:35. We've scheduled in lunch each day to help the students make sure they can schedule their day. We heard from a lot of parents that the students themselves had a lot of time figuring out their schedule in the day. So it's all laid out for them. And then from 1:20 to 3, again, is online independent classwork. The students will be meeting with periods 1, 3, 5, and 7 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They will meet with those classes for 60 minutes. And also there's lunch. And then after lunch, there's teacher office hours and online classwork that they'll be working on. And then Wednesday and Friday, they'll be meeting with their 0 period, their 2nd period, their 4th period, their 6th period. And then again, online classwork and teacher office hours. This is consistent week after week. Their breaks are built into it, their task periods are built into it. And this preserves our program, gives the kids opportunity, and slows down their week. And that's it.
Great. Sorry. I was just waiting. It sounded like an airplane was passing somewhere, so I just let the airplane pass.
There's a helicopter like trying to land on my house or something. I apologize.
No worries. I was just going to let that pass. Okay. Thank you, Dawn. And then I'd like to introduce Principal of Rancho Cotati High School, Dr. Louis Gansler, to explain his schedule and talk about the process he's gone through.
Hello?
Let's see. Dr. Gansler?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Perfect. No worries. No worries.
All right. Yes, good evening. We have a schedule that's very close to tech middles. We also have 3 classes per semester, 3 core classes. And those classes will be semester length. And then in the 2nd semester, they will take 3 new classes. This configuration allows us to reduce class size to 25. It reduces the number of students per semester for the teachers. So instead of around 150, they now have 75. And it reduces the number of teachers and classes for the students. So instead of 6 to 7 classes at once, they have 3. And that was very clear from the feedback that we received that managing 6 or 7 classes was very difficult for both teachers, students, and parents. In fact, I spoke to one parent who has 4 children in the district, all the secondary level. She said she had 26 different teachers she had to contact. And when I told her about this classroom, this configuration, she almost cried. The basic configuration is the first 3 classes are in the morning. They are stable. It is every day. It is as consistent as possible. And then they will work on the work completion from 10:30 to 12:15. We will also have an additional support class for SPED and ELD. And then we go into lunch, and then from 1 to 1:45, depending on the day, we have tutorials. So if there are additional concepts that need explanation, they are guaranteed to have a live chat with any of their 3 teachers. And again, much easier to schedule something like this because the overlap between 3 teachers is much less than, of course, 6. And then we want to ensure the integrity of assessment. So we've created both Wednesdays and Fridays for live assessment as needed. And then from 1:45 to 3:30 work completion. For this configuration, it's sometimes called the Copernican plan. Sometimes it's called a 4x4. Sometimes it's called semester length block. I did a pretty deep dive into the literature. I found that either there was no difference between a traditional schedule in terms of academic achievement, or it was in favor of the 4x4. And there's one study in particular called The Effects of Block Scheduling on High School Academic Achievement. That was a very serious case study of a district outside of Denver, where they had middle and high schools. It was a large district, and half of them were on the 4x4 schedule and half of them were on a traditional schedule. And they found that the students in the 4x4 block scheduling had greater gains in scores in reading and math than did the students in both traditional scheduling and AB block scheduling. And it was particularly powerful because the demographics were the same at all the schools. And it included both middle and high schools, and the finding was consistent across the board. So we feel very confident about this model, that it's the best for our students. And it was developed over several months with in very close collaboration with our leadership team, which is comprised of chairs from all 10 of our departments. And so this is the work of a lot of different people, and we're ready. So thank you.
Louis, this is Lef. I have a question.
Yes.
So the question is, so I'm taking 3 classes a semester. Will
Yes.
each class for that semester equal roughly a year if I took that class for a year, or 6 months?
Yes. Right. So if you think about, yeah, the answer is yes. And if you think about, if you have this PowerPoint here of all these different schedules, both Lawrence Jones and Tech High have classes. Their classes are scheduled for every other day. The sequencing is just together instead of every other day. So we could have had 6 classes spread out throughout the year, but instead we're putting 3, but they are contiguous. So there's no break between, you have class 1 5 times a week instead of 2 or 3 times a week.
But right now, and like say last year, let's just use math, for example, or algebra. Wasn't I going to an algebra class 5 days a week if that was my first period class?
No.
No? Oh, and
No.
because of the block schedule. Okay.
Right.
Okay, now I get it. Okay. I'm still back when my kids went to high school.
Yeah, sure.
I haven't jumped into the block schedule yet. Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Yeah, that helps. The light just went on. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
So again, Louis, this is something you're looking at where class 1 live for Monday at 8:30 would be recorded, because there might be some students that couldn't do it till maybe 7 o'clock at night, or whatever the case may be. They would be able to still access that. They just wouldn't be in the live classroom.
I'm going to say tentatively the answer to that question is yes, but I want to remind everyone that we have an attendance requirement, and that, I don't really want to open the door to saying that class is optional. No,
and I totally understand what you're saying. I do know, though, that there are going to be parents that are not going to be able to have their student attend for whatever purpose in a live, and this is where, distance learning is going to have some issues for some people. So
yeah, I mean,
I get what you're saying.
There's no model that won't have issues for people. There just isn't.
No, but high school shouldn't have the issues as much as lower grades.
It depends on your family situation.
And it's one of the reasons why we're really trying to have a very stable schedule, so just so that you really can plan around it. It's not different from day to day, and they're very short and concise. So we really just want to encourage everyone as much as possible. The rest of that schedule is very customizable for families who need that extra space and time, but we're really trying to emphasize that it's important for this 2-hour block a day to really be online and live with your teacher.
Krista, we're going to have to address issues to that extent in the learning continuity plan. And so we are going to, when students are struggling, we have to have a tiered program to help support them. So we will address that in our learning continuity plan to make sure that, again, we're supporting our families to, have kids commit to this time.
And
Right.
and I understand that need for flexibility, and yet we have to remember that education is compulsory, so we do have to expect students to report. And but we have to be aware of that. What I did want to say, Julie, do you want to say anything? Or
Yes, I do have one more thing to say, because I want our Thomas Page Academy families to know too that we are following the elementary schedule for elementary for K-8 at Thomas Page Academy, and that there may be a little bit of modification for the middle schools, but they are blocked very similarly to the elementary at the elementary schedule. So just to address our Thomas Page friends. So yes, thank you. And thank you to all our principals and all their hard work and working with the teachers. And thank you guys for presenting tonight.
And I want to thank Julie and all of the principals, because what this work reflects is really the uniqueness of each of our schools, the needs of our students. And what I heard the recurring theme to be is parent concerns and needs are reflected in these schedules. So we may not have a perfect product, but boy, oh boy, the hours and the thoughtfulness of these leaders is impressive. So I want to talk a little bit about the next steps. As you know, we have to work with our union partners to finalize our MOUs. And what's nice about the schedule development is that our union partners are in the room as these are being developed, so they have had input. So we're hoping that will make for a smoother MOU. It's been going so well. Implement a plan for professional development, really finding out what the needs are of everyone, giving them the adequate time to look at essential standards, work with the platforms, increase parent participation in the distance learning conversations, have them, give them an opportunity to look at the schedules and discuss, and also, acquire the necessary software and online learning material to improve instruction. The good news is many of the companies gave us free access to their materials. So now we can make some wise choices about what we might need as we go into distance learning for a little bit longer. Anyway, Julie.
No problem. Great. We're going to provide training on all safety protocols related to COVID-19. We have a webinar tomorrow with our friends at SCO, and we're really going to go over making sure our IIPP plan, our employee handbook, everything is squared away and our staff is safe and students are safe. We will continue meeting with our task force. Again, keep continuing to get feedback and bringing in our parent task force groups now. And constantly monitoring current public health information. So we have, direction as of Friday. This is a really good feeling to have. We've got some clear guidance and as clear as we can be, and really start kind of honing that in and letting our families know what we're doing. And again, we are our ultimate goal. And again, everybody's hope, we all hope, is that we have our kiddos back, that, things are safe. And again, we're going to continue to plan for hybrid instruction as well.
Julie, when do we think we might have the draft distance learning plan and the draft hybrid plans available for first review?
Great question. The hybrid plans are so what you saw right now are very similar to what we would do with the hybrid. We were trying to keep these, as Dr. Perez has said, we want to keep these schedules as consistent as possible so that families won't have a major switch either way. So that we can bring those forward. And I'm sorry, what was when our kind of reopening plan? Was that the other question?
The hybrid plan.
Okay.
I mean, the hybrid plan is going to be the distance learning plan with some added things, right? Because there's going to be both.
Right. So they can be pretty good to go here as soon as we kind of finish up our MOUs and good stuff.
I'm sorry, I lost my thought for a second. You mentioned professional development. Is it possible to, well, two things. I think Mike had mentioned a meeting or two ago, I can't remember which, that we were going to be going with one platform, Google Classroom. Are we going to be using that and Zoom and, or are we looking at one program consistently across all school sites?
We're looking at using the Google Meet and Google Classroom as our district platform.
Okay, so we won't have some using Zoom, some using Google. It'll be consistent for parents.
Correct.
Okay, and then as far as professional development you brought up, is it possible that, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is part of your negotiations and I'm talking about this too soon, but Santa Rosa City Schools plan, they pushed school back 5 days to the 17th, and they're using those 5 days as professional development for teachers to get them up to speed and answer any questions on the distance learning computer component of teaching.
That would definitely be a negotiated item. The calendar is a negotiated item. So that would definitely, if we were interested in doing that, we would have to negotiate that with the unions.
Okay.
Just a reminder, if we change our instructional days, we would need to, you know, if we flip flop them, we have a certain amount that we can negotiate, but if we were to add days, that's going to change the whole calendar. We'd have to add additional days, you know, so just, we got to talk about
the
that.
other, I also had someone ask me about, typically the district, the day before school starts, we would stand outside Hahn and wait for them to get posted on the wall at 4 o'clock before school starts. Are we going to try to get students assigned to teachers with some advance notice as opposed to, 12 hours before school starts?
Great question. You know what? I'm going to need to work with my elementary principal team on that one. I hadn't considered that yet. Again, we don't want people flooding, coming on campus, and we'll see what we can do to give parents a notice of who they're teaching.
Well, and I've heard in some of the comments tonight to the board and the district that parents are looking for some planning they can do ahead of what kind of supplies they're going to need for their student. And I think it would be helpful. I think parents, grandparents on the other side of this would like to be ready, a week before school starts, so we're not frantically trying to run out and buy things.
Okay, good feedback.
So,
We'll definitely talk about that.
Okay.
And so as you can see, one of the things I wanted to say, I want to thank again. We've had principals, teachers, staff during their summer break come in and work on these schedules. So I want to really thank them for their dedication to the children of Cotati Roner Park. The conversations have been thoughtful, and there's a real desire to do what's in the best interest of our students, and that's really reassuring. And what I do want to remind folks is, what can we do every one of us wants to go back to school. So really, this is a community issue. I want to remind people that this is you all know this is a global pandemic. So we need to work together to get Sonoma County off that watch list. Because I think all of us, including me, want to meet kids and want to be around those students and be on our school sites. But we have to get to that safe point. And are there any questions for us?
Yeah, I have some more.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Myra, you mentioned testing and tracing. We don't know yet what that looks like for the districts, for each school site.
No, we do not. That was just the guidance provided by the governor. So I'm going to be asking more questions about that.
Okay. Food service will continue as is through at least through October.
Yes, we'll continue.
How is Richard Crane going? Are they using this current scheduling, the distance learning schedule, since school started last week? Have they been using that?
Well, they've been working on the schedule. We're trying to get the schedule and get the MOU for Richard Crane. It can be challenging because they started a little bit sooner. But Teresa the principal had looked at a schedule. They've been working on that. So now what's really nice about this is they've been part of that process. We're a little bit late for them, but they now have that schedule and they've been working on it. And Teresa's been part of the conversation.
I have two more questions, Ben, sorry. What's happening with IT support for teachers, students? I think they're going to be inundated with help. I can't get to the internet. Help, my classroom's not working. Are we going to have a dedicated person in the IT department who can work with parents and students as appropriate? Like, are we going to have someone staffing a phone line from 8 to 5, like a help desk? Not opening a ticket per se, because I don't even know how you would do a ticket system in this kind of a environment. But I mean, I don't know how that's going to be handled through the IT department.
Well, we currently have a help desk. You know, I think I'm gonna need to check in with the IT team and say, you know, how can we support? I have been very impressed even with the support I'm getting as a new employee. And I know that they don't say no. They, you know, what do you need? And they're out in the field and they're set up for success in terms of that. So do you have anything to add on that, Julie? But I mean, we've been in close communication with IT.
No, and Krista, I think we're gonna have to monitor the situation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, you know, knowing this is something new, we do not want to wipe out our IT team. So we love them.
I was an IT person many years ago, and I can't even imagine if you're talking 5,000 students that have, or whatever it is, 4,000. I can't even imagine the percentage of them daily that are going to have issues that are going to need help.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And opening, you know, even if you had 100, 200 tickets a day, I don't know how IT would be managing that, plus everything else that they do on a daily basis. I just thought it might be something we need to take a look at just so we could support our families. And then my last question I have is regarding support staff. And this may also be a premature question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What happens to the staff in a distance learning model, which we are going to go to, like yard duties and those kinds of support staff, librarians? Where can they be, or can they be utilized in a distance learning model with campuses closed?
Other great questions, Krista, other great questions. And we're beginning those discussions, and how can we best utilize our staff to help support our teachers moving forward. And the conversations are absolutely happening right now.
And one of the things that we have to consider too, that you know, this is a shift in working conditions. So we need to work with our labor partners. You know, in terms of instructional aides, that's a little bit different. They can support students, but we really need to we really need to have that conversation with our union leaders to determine that flexibility. It's just not having real clear direction. All of a sudden we have this statement from the governor changes things. So that's something that we need to continue the conversations.
So the learning continuity plan, Julie, is going to address some of the issues regarding the hybrid plan and the distance learning plan. So we'll actually see something in a couple weeks, maybe, in regards to that.
We can talk about that. Again, our next meeting, I believe, is not until August 18th. So, you know, to that extent, I'll leave that up to Dr. Perez, obviously, but yes. Again,
I think don't we have to have 2 hearings about the learning continuity plan and then vote on it so it can get to SCO by September 30th?
So September 30th is the last day that we can do it. And then I have 5 days to submit that to SCO after the 30th. So it looks like we can do 2 meetings potentially in September. The challenge with the learning continuity plan, and here's where it's similar in terms of the LCAP, where I have to get a lot of stakeholder feedback. And so that's going to be the hardest piece right now, with folks just kind of, you know, it's the start of school. It's a really crunched window. Thank goodness I'm kind of working on the guiding questions that we have, and kind of starting to compile some of the responses right now. So it looks like I'm sure we'll have to schedule another meeting, but I'd talk to Dr. Perez about that in terms of when we need to do that.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you to all the principals for your schedules and all the work you've been putting in. I know that this has been particularly difficult for everybody, so thank you all.
Thank you.
Myra,
Yes.
this is Tim. I have a couple quick questions, but before that, I just want to make sure I'm clear on the overall nature of what's been described tonight. And it seems to me like we're shifting from quantity to quality. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. And I want to thank all the principals and all of you who've been working on this, because it seems like you've been listening to staff and parents and students really well and making the necessary changes. Just a couple questions I want to touch on with professional development and online curriculum. First, with online curriculum, one thing I've heard from a teacher is that would it be possible to have online curriculum that replicates a classroom experience? So for instance, if the classroom was working on biology and looking at a specimen in a slide under a microscope, there could be a video which would show that process. It just seems to me like in this time there must be a lot of new online curriculum being developed, and so are you learning? Are you sharing ideas with other districts in the county or even beyond that?
Well, one of the there are a lot of resources. I'm going to make a little bit of a connection here. When we started the new standards, we adopted the standards, we got a lot of materials that weren't the best. So what we're doing now is we have an opportunity to look. We're certainly going to there's curriculum that could be coming out of our ears that's being promoted and pushed on us. But really, I think we need to sit with teachers and have them look at it and review it before we make any purchasing decisions, because we really want quality materials. Teachers did different things. There are teachers that did lessons and videotape their own lessons, but we really are going to do a deep dive, and we're going to be meeting the task force work. We've just got the schedules done. Now we're going to dig deeper and say, what are the needs of the teachers? What do they need to be successful in distance learning? And I'm sure they have some ideas, but we definitely want to continue to do that research to make sure we get quality materials. Did I leave anything out, Julie?
No, I think that's great. And the teachers are fabulous. The teachers are working their tails off. They're talking to their principals. They're saying, hey, I think we need to look at this. And there's a lot of communication happening in that respect. So we are kind of gathering our lists and we're going to bring them forward to the task force.
Okay, thanks. And then my second question about professional development is related to that. We're probably going to be using distance learning in one form or the other for quite a while. And so is the professional development going to be geared specifically to distance learning so that you can, make strides forward in terms of quality versus quantity?
I would say absolutely. There's also pieces that we're looking at kind of the broad scope too. So we're looking at social emotional support and curriculum and learning in that respect. So how are our kids doing emotionally? How's everybody? I mean, that's kind of our primary concern right now. We're starting back. Everybody take a deep breath. It's been a crazy year so far, and let's get to know our folks. And then absolutely everything that we're going to do is going to be in support of distance learning. I know some folks need support on Google. Great, we're going to have Google trainings. We need to look at our standards, and are we really addressing this, the standards and to the best of our ability, and time for collaboration. Again, our teachers are our experts and our best resource. So what do they need and how can they come together and really look at instruction and what is the best delivery system through distance learning? Like I said, and as Dr. Perez said, last year we jumped, last school year we jumped, and they were incredible. And again, it was not an easy thing. And I know it was not consistent. Now we know what the game plan is. We've had time to take a deep breath and kind of wrap our brains around this. We know we're doing distance learning, and I have no doubt our teachers and principals are going to come up and do amazing things for our kiddos.
So in your plan, Julie, is there regular intervals of evaluation of what's working and what's not working? Because we have to think long term in
Right.
terms of distance learning.
Yep, there's a big portion about assessment and progress monitoring. How are we monitoring our students? So again, if we're finding out that we're implementing our distance learning and our kids are not doing well, then that's a big discussion point. Again, the time that our principals and our staffs have together, that's when they can come up and say, hey, you guys, we're really struggling with this, or you know what, we're knocking it out of the ballpark. Let's continue to do this and keep doing that. So it's going to be a constant reflection of what's working and what's not.
And I think we really need to consider ongoing surveys. We get into it, what's going, how can we improve things? Because it's very different. It's different to teach online. I have the privilege of teaching online, and it's very different. So we have to kind of monitor and adjust based on how it's going.
And Tim, we're going to ask our students. The students will tell you everything. They're going to let you know what's working for them and where they're really struggling. And I think the student voice is going to be huge.
And I know we get caught up in, the pressure of all the immediate needs, but we have to think long term too, because what we're doing is not me, but not us on the board, but all of the educators are doing is you're reimagining public education. It's going to look completely different in a few years, I think. And so we, even though we have to focus on the present, we have to also have that vision. And just one last thing in terms of, building on what Chris has said about the dedicated line in IT, maybe, I don't know, I don't really understand these things that well, but maybe one thing that could be done is there could be frequently asked questions, posted on the district website or school websites, and maybe even videos, like help videos that the IT department puts together for parents and students, so that you don't have to kind of repeat everything for every, all the 5,000 students.
Well, Tim, I have some good news for you. The IT department has been hard at work, and they are already creating videos. And guess what? They're creating them bilingually. So I'm really excited about that, because that doesn't always happen, and it's happening, and they're aware of it, and they are taking care of our entire community, which is really impressive. So we've begun that work, which is exciting. It makes it, some of the, we can do a search for a video, but it's much better if we have a place on our website where people can click on, and it's our own people helping, supporting one another.
Yeah, an FAQ section would be great.
Yep, that's what I'm working towards.
Perfect.
Cool.
I definitely think that'll make a big difference if we have different videos, not just for the kids, but for the parents as well, so that they can not have, they have the guidance that they need, that they can go either that or to our YouTube channel as well. I might have missed this. Is the plan for the teachers to be teaching from in their classroom?
At this point, we're providing flexibility, because in some instances, teachers are saying, I need to be in my classroom because I need particular supplies and equipment. So we're providing that opportunity. We love to, as long as we're following the safety protocols, it makes sense to have folks on campus. But also there are some people that need to work remotely from home. So we're going to offer that flexibility if they need that, it might involve childcare or what have you. So we're trying to be as accommodating as possible and as flexible as possible to make sure that we meet everyone's needs, because it's a challenging time. It's a difficult time.
I was also wondering if we're working on anything with maybe some lists of other services to help parents. I don't know if with Sonoma State students that can come in and help some parents that are working, any kind of collaboration we can do with SSU. A lot of parents are just stressed out because they have absolutely no idea what to do with their kids when they go to work.
Jennifer, we have a meeting with the YMCA tomorrow, and we're gonna talk to the YMCA and see if there's some things that we can work out with them. See if we can partner with them. We have not reached out to SSU yet, but that's something that we can look into, and again, and address with other community partners. Again, knowing that this is going to be a true challenge for working families. So to really see what we can do to help. But we have our first, we've had a couple conversations with the Y, and we have another one tomorrow just to see if we can start doing some planning.
And thank you for reminding us about SSU, because that's a wonderful resource that we can tap into.
I had heard that the YMCA laid off a bunch of their staff and they're only accepting a very limited number of students. I know the Boys and Girls Club is having some issues there too. It's going to be really expensive to have your kid at anywhere all day, and those people at the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club, they're not educators. So, you know, they're in after school care, before school care. They're not equipped to be able to help children get online, do their homework and all of that. So especially when you're talking about having kids from many different school sites and sometimes even out of, you know, the city. So it's going to be a difficult situation for parents all the way around, and I don't have a magic answer for that.
Well, we will keep working on it and keep having conversations. Any other questions?
So are you?
Well,
Go ahead, Joe.
I was just saying, I was thinking it's pretty cool that, you know, the teachers have the ability to record their lessons. And then that's a perfect opportunity for coaching and, you know, self-improvement. So, you know, I'm sure not many teachers record their lessons and themselves to see what they look like or what they sound like. And the principals, I'm sure, you know, don't have, you know, it's a way for them to be able to coach them, you know, just to see how it's going. I think that's kind of cool. I mean, I think that's like a good thing to come from this, if anything. That's going to be super hard, and I appreciate everyone's work. I couldn't even imagine I'm trying to come up with a plan without like an infrastructure or parameters. And I can't wait to see like the final product and the kids go to school and see how it turns out.
Thank you, Joan. And yes, there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration, because if we do this together, it's a lot easier than everyone doing it separately. So that's what we're hearing from teachers, is they'd like to meet with grade levels and really have a conversation about how to share the load and how to create that alignment, which is absolutely music to my ears, because that's, you know, that's how we'll make it through, is supporting one another.
So I have a question. So if a teacher records their first period class and I'm watching it and I don't get it, I can watch it again later. Is that the case?
Absolutely.
Or my parents can watch it and say, here, you know, so that's great. That from a resource, that's amazing.
Yeah. And that, and some, you know, we've been talking about this and we've never done this in education, but that flipped classroom, you know, have kids watch a video, then, you know, then do some work. I mean, there's just a really, we have to look at this piece of it as an opportunity.
Yeah. For those that aren't at their top learning level in the mornings, maybe they want to watch it later and they're more awake and more attuned to learning at that time. It's another opportunity. So.
Yep, it certainly is.
Super. So do we need to take an action on 4A here now? Are we done with discussing that?
I believe so.
Okay. So any other questions before I ask for a motion to approve the opening schools and distant learning model? Hearing none, may I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thanks, staff, for everything you've done. Thanks for everybody. This is a big job.
Left,
Yes,
left.
yes.
Just, I can't see the agenda, but was that a roll call or do we have to do?
That's an
vote
action. That is
individual
not,
votes?
the next one, Tim, will be an adoption of a resolution as a roll call. The first one was not a roll
Okay, thanks.
call. So there's a second resolution 4B that we're going to go on to now. So
Thanks.
Myra, does somebody want to introduce 4B?
Yes, I'd happy to present resolution 1921-1. Really what this is saying is that we are going to start on distance learning, and we're going to follow the guidance provided by Senate Bill 98, and that we will revisit at the quarter. What we're, based on the governor's recommendations, and I've been in meetings with at the Sonoma County Office of Education, and everybody's looking at that quarter. Like, that gives us an opportunity to plan and to continue planning for hybrid. And we can see in October where we are on that monitoring list and if we are able to move towards hybrid. So that's kind of a nice checking point. And what recommended is about 40 days. So that's what I'm recommending to the board that we do.
Okay, questions, anybody? And if not, may I have a motion to adopt resolution 1921-1 declaring instructional method for the 2020-2021 school year?
So moved.
Oh, left.
Yes.
Before we get into that, sorry, but should we read that?
Could we read the resolution?
Well, could we or should we?
I don't. It's part of your packet, and
Yeah. Oh, I know, but
it's part
well,
of.
I'm just
it's posted.
how long? Okay, yeah, I'm not insisting on us reading it. I'm just wondering, like for people who don't know what we're voting on.
Well, I mean, we can read it, Tim,
Up
but
to
it's
you.
a lot of whereas this and that, and I mean, I think Myra just summed it up pretty well as to what we're going to do. We're going to, go to a
Okay.
distant learning, and we're going to look at it first quarter. If you read all
Okay,
this
thanks.
stuff in the SB, it's just a lot of legalese and stuff, and it's going to be, in my opinion, would be complicated and not real clear. So,
Okay, fine.
is that true, Myra, or do you see does anyone see? If I'm wrong and they'll see a benefit in that, let me know. No, yes. I guess not.
I think we could post it on the district website for people to go read it if they wanted to.
Okay, thank you. So I had first, can I have a second on this?
I'll second.
Okay, any other questions? If not, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
Trustee Chimino,
Yes.
Trustee Gillis,
Yes.
Trustee Non,
Yes.
Trustee Wiltermuth,
Yes.
Okay. So that concludes our meeting. A short, but almost an hour and 45 minutes. It doesn't bode or doesn't, I guess I want to just say thanks to everyone for all the work that they've done. I can't imagine the dedication and that our staff, our administrators, our teachers are doing to get us to where we are. This is an uncharted time. At least we have some direction now from our health officials and from the state to give us some direction. So I just hope and pray that the virus will subside and we can get back to a more normal life type of thing. But until that happens, I think I'm confident that our staff is doing an outstanding job and going forward. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting.
I do want to ask for one thing.
Sure.
we have an election coming up, and I would appreciate it if the district would note that on our Facebook page with an explanation as to what areas are available, what the process is, as well as on our website.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. And I have a clarifying question on that too. Can you, Myra or somebody, look on that? If Jennifer doesn't run or doesn't move into another place and run, does the filing get extended a week because it's an incumbent? I was unclear on that.
I will look into it.
Yeah, just so we can let people know how that works.
So Myra, I can provide a comment. So the district's website has been updated for school board trustees. There is information about which seats are open. It is in trustee areas 3 and 5. The map is included. And also we'll be posting the information about where interested candidates can get information from the county registrar of voters. And we will make it a news item as well, but the district's website for trustees has been updated.
Can we have
it does.
front and center on the front page? Because no one's going to know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. We'll include it as a news item.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Mike.
Anything else before we adjourn? Thanks, everybody. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.